So I have some really interesting information on what happens when your body starts drying out. I'm talking about dry skin, like dry hands. Let's say your hands are getting dry and wrinkly, or let's say, for example, you have a dry mouth or dry eyes. What is behind this dryness? Okay, there's multiple causes. Let's start with your skin. So if people have dry skin, they usually take some type of moisturizer to counter it. But what happens after about 5 or 6 minutes is all of a sudden it's dry again. So they need this moisturizer over and over and over. You have to realize that whatever's in that cream goes directly into your skin, into your bloodstream, into the liver, and other organs. So if there's petroleum, if there's chemicals, it's going right inside your body. And unfortunately, a lot of these moisturizer creams actually end up drying you out because they have certain things in them, like alcohol. Either consumption of alcohol or in a cream can make you dry from the inside out. Then we have petroleum products, right? So you have to start reading the label on your creams and avoid anything with petroleum. Medication, psych drugs, high blood pressure medication. There's actually over 500 drugs that have as their symptom dry skin. If you're a diabetic, you'll have a tendency to have more dry skin. Mineral oil, which is not good to be either in your products topically or taking internally. An autoimmune condition, lupus, can also affect your eyes, mouth, but definitely dry skin and dry hair. If you have city water, okay, you don't have spring water and you don't have a filter, you get fluoride, you get chlorine, all sorts of chemicals that will just completely dry your skin out. Not to mention drinking tap water can make you dry from the inside out. So you have to realize that because you have dry skin, it's not necessarily something you're putting on topically. It could be something you're taking internally. Now, the other elephant in the room is soap, and excessively washing your hands or using some type of detergent. Detergents pull out oils, okay? So you're going to basically pull out all these really important oils in your skin, like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and many other oils that are not vitamins, but are essential fats that you need to keep your skin of a certain moisture. Now, if you have gut issues, okay, that can actually create all sorts of skin problems, one being dry skin. So if you have dry skin and you have a gut problem, I would start taking a probiotic and you probably will see changes within weeks. Now, the liver is a really important organ in relationship to your skin. Your skin is a good reflection of what's going on in your liver. If you have liver cirrhosis, inflammation in the liver, if you have a fatty liver, you're going to have some skin issues, and dry skin is definitely one of them. Because think about what your liver does with fat-soluble vitamins. I mean, it's a key organ to help you store some of these fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamin A, for example, that relates to the eyes. So let's shift from the skin to dry eyes. If your eyes are dry, the most likely cause is a vitamin A deficiency. I remember I used to have dry eyes really bad, to the point where my eyes were sticky. It affected my vision. And one time I opened my eyes and it tore my cornea. So I have a long history of problems with my eyes, especially being dry. And of course, I had a gallbladder problem for 20 years, had no clue it was my gallbladder. Gallbladder problems refer pain to the right shoulder, right? And when you have a gallbladder problem, many times you're deficient in bile and you can't absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. And vitamin A is one big one. And so you may notice this either in dry eyes or a lack of vision in the evening when it's dark, when you're trying to drive. Also, vegans who don't consume saturated fats tend to have a problem with their bile and gallbladder issues because the bile is triggered by saturated fats. So if you don't trigger the production of bile, you could end up with a deficiency of bile and also a deficiency of these fat-soluble vitamins, which, by the way, since we're on the topic of vitamin A, let me just talk about this. This is a very important point. You have what people think is vitamin A, which is beta carotene, because they call it vitamin A, but beta carotene is only a precursor for vitamin A. So when you see this, orange or yellow carrot or yams or other plants, that is loaded with beta carotene. Egg yolks also have beta carotene, but plant sources don't have the active form of what beta carotene turns into, which is retinol. So what you have to realize is that even though they call beta carotene vitamin A, it's really not the active form, and it has to be converted. And the percent of conversion is really small. It's like 3%. So don't expect to get your retinol active form of vitamin A from plants. It's nearly impossible. As a side note, egg yolks also have beta carotene as well as retinol, so they have both. But the point is, you need retinol to prevent dry eyes. The best source of retinol, which is the active form of vitamin A, is liver, egg yolks, and cod liver oil. So typically you can have dry eyes from either something lacking in your diet, or usually it's a gallbladder problem. Also realize that your microbes make a secondary type of bile salt, and you could be deficient in those microbes, and that could be the reason why you're not pulling this vitamin A into your eyes. The next point I want to bring up about dryness in your body, and I'm talking about skin, dry mouth, and dry eyes, has something to do with menopause. Let's say you are going through menopause and you have this hormonal shift. Typically what happens, you have a decrease of estrogen, but you have a more significant decrease in progesterone. So we have this major drop in progesterone and this drop in estrogen that's not as low. So the ratio is really low progesterone to high estrogen, but it's really not too high, but just the ratios are off. These ratios can greatly affect your skin. They can affect your collagen, but they will usually make your skin very, very dry. This is why women after menopause notice that their skin is so dry, and they start using all these creams and it doesn't seem to work. And the skin sometimes looks wrinkly on their hands or their face. So this is what I recommend you do. You could take a progesterone cream and put it into your skin and see good results. But I think another thing you may want to try first would be to take a DHEA product. Okay, it's a natural product you can take, which is kind of like a building block for these hormones to tend to boost them up. It's kind of like the raw material to build up more progesterone as well as estrogen and other hormones too, like cortisol and testosterone, things like that. So if you were to take that as a supplement, not a lot, you just need a little bit, because if you take too much, you can actually raise hormones higher than it should be. The last area I want to talk about is dry mouth. Okay, what can cause dry mouth more specifically than what I already talked about? If your body is producing less than 0.1 milliliters of saliva per minute, you will fit in the category of a deficiency of saliva, which is going to cause dry mouth. Now, here's one little side note. Your saliva makes certain things like sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, to help buffer the acids in your mouth. And so there's a lot of benefits to having enough saliva that can help prevent cavities, to help prevent tartar, that I did a whole video on in the past. Antibiotics, okay, can create a dry mouth. Antibiotics can increase your risk of getting candida, which can also give you a dry mouth. And then if you're consuming sugar that feeds the candida, it just will never go away. So if you have candida, you absolutely positively need to get rid of all sugar in the diet, and that will greatly help you. All right, next one is stress. Stress can really alter the salivary glands. I know in the past when I had a great fear of public speaking and I had to speak, wow, my mouth got so dry I couldn't even talk. So there's a factor of being in the flight or fight mechanism and having this stress or high levels of cortisol and adrenaline in relationship to what that does to your salivary glands and creating dry mouth. So supporting the adrenal glands and overcoming this fear of public speaking could be very beneficial. All right, there's also a situation if you had COVID, for example, okay, or even taking certain vaccines that relate to that virus can give you dry mouth as a side effect. And the mechanism usually involves a deficiency of zinc. So without enough zinc, you could have dry mouth as well. All right, we already talked about drinking alcohol. That can dry you out. I mean, think about when you wake up in the morning, you're completely dehydrated. You might have a headache, and you're definitely going to have a dry mouth. Going to the dentist and getting a fluoride treatment because you want to make your teeth whiter, or having extra fluoride in your toothpaste can also affect the microbiome in your mouth and create dry mouth. The last thing, which is probably the most important thing, is your diet. If you are on a high carb diet, you're going to notice you're going to have more of a dry mouth. So, of course, the thing to do is to go low carb. All right, so I've given you a lot of things to think with, whether you have dry eyes, a dry mouth, or dry skin. And I'm going to put some links down below to more specific videos if you have a dry mouth or dry eyes. But as far as a remedy for dry skin, I have a new combination that I would highly recommend you try. It's combining two things, Lanolin with vitamin E oil. What is Lanolin? That is a natural substance that sheep produce that keep their skin and wool nice and protected. And you can get this as a natural product, okay? Then you can put on your skin. It works great for dry skin. Now, I will say there's a little bit of a scent to it that you may not like, but it's not that bad. But it's very, very natural. If you get the natural one without the detergents, the deodorizers, the alcohol that they normally put in there. So just get something very, very natural. And then put a little bit in a dish with a couple drops of natural vitamin E oil, mix it up good, and rub that into your hands and other parts of your body. And you're going to notice a great moisturizer effect, especially in the winter. And I think you'll really like the solution. Now, if you haven't seen my other video on what to do for dry hands, I put that video up right here. It's been very popular. Check it out.